Maine's highest court affirmed the life sentence and conviction given to a man convicted of kidnapping and beating his girlfriend. Jury found 49-year-old Devon Carter of Milford guilty of aggravated attempted murder, kidnapping, and assault charges last year. The charges stem from an incident that happened in 2023 where Carter repeatedly hit his girlfriend with a hammer before taking her to a secluded location at Alton against her will, Carter appealed, claiming there was insufficient evidence to support the extreme cruelty aspect of the aggravated attempted murder charge, and the life sentence was disproportionate. He also argued he was not in the right mind when he waived his Miranda rights, as he claimed he was coming off a drug binge and that he was given a heavier sentence because he chose to take the case to trial.